Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, which you probably are because I haven't uploaded anything in like over a year, my name is Cher and this is my art and commentary space where I'll just, sometimes I'll talk about something, sometimes I'll draw, and sometimes I'll do both because I can never just stick to one thing, can I? But today I just wanted to refresh this channel and I'll start by talking about something light before in my future videos I'll delve into heavier and more research topics. But for today I just wanted to talk about something that I've noticed, and it's the title of this video, so maybe it's why you clicked if you've noticed it as well. And that's about how sketchbooks, at least the way that they're presented online, have become more and more polished, especially since I started out as a young artist back in like middle school. And I kind of wanted to explore that, explore the effects of turning these sketchbooks into secondary portfolios and what that increased standard of perfection and artistic quality can lead to, the sort of like sketchbook anxiety that I hear thrown around here and there. And also, if you have noticed this as well, leave a comment down below. This is like something that if you've also noticed and like you want to like talk about, and stick around to the end where I'll talk about some tips and tricks to get around this sort of perfectionism and sketchbook anxiety that I have also experienced. So before we get deeper into this topic, I want to discuss what a sketchbook is anyway, and why do artists keep them? Well, if you're someone who's already immersed in the art world, the answer to that seems really obvious. But for someone who's a beginner artist or someone outside of the art world, it's important to know what the purpose of it is and why it is kind of a big deal in the art scene. Plus, I'll get into what really defines a sketchbook later on in the video, so this is just sort of a preliminary standard definition. And for the standard definition, sketchbooks are places to explore and jot down rough ideas, concepts, and can be used to develop preliminary sketches or thumbnails into larger, more polished pieces. Artists aren't the only people who use sketchbooks, but because I'm talking about a visual medium, I'm talking about it in a way that's a visual medium, I'm going to narrow my focus to visual artists that use sketchbooks. I find that the use of sketchbooks has been so ingrained into the collective artist identity that when I went out and first purchased my first sketchbook, it felt like this huge deal, that I was actually taking this whole art career thing seriously. And pretty soon after that, it became an outlet for my ideas, my characters, world building, and these were ideas that wouldn't be limited by having lined paper, and trying not to draw outside of the margins or into the holes or anything like that. And to this day, I still find drawing thumbnails traditionally for proper illustrated pieces allows for some really stylized work and posing because I'm working within a limited space. Traditionally, with digital art, it feels a lot more expansive, but with traditional art, you really have to work with what you have. And again, that leads to some really creative choices and transferring that to a larger piece. I was also more purposeful with my line work, especially in my junior year of high school, where I started drawing with a pen, with only a pen, pencils sometimes, but it made me focus more on my line work, on my anatomy, and making sure that whatever I put down was a purposeful line. And sometimes a sketchbook feels like a personal journal of sorts too. Sometimes I'll write down whatever I'm thinking, if what I'm thinking relates to the piece or if not, or sometimes I'll write down song lyrics, and sometimes those lyrics will inspire sketches in the book. And it kind of feels like some sort of like personal journal or diary, and how many of you can relate to drawing or writing in your sketchbook and someone comes over and says, "Oh, you're an artist? Is that your sketchbook? Can I see it? Why is this person naked?" But I soon found that my initial use of my sketchbook started to coincide with the rise of sketchbook tour videos and sketchbooks on social media, and I would become more inspired by those than working more on my fundamentals. And these highly skilled and highly rendered examples would inspire me, but also give me a bit of anxiety. And so with that, I think I'm going to get into sketchbook tours. Sketchbook tours are exactly what the name suggests. They're these self-contained videos documenting what's inside any given person's sketchbook at any time. And I admit that I do enjoy watching these. I'm talking about them, but I do still get like a lot of inspiration from the way that people format their pages. Some people even bind their own sketchbooks, and I'm usually more inclined towards one that have a sort of mixed media approach, so like a collage-y feel, or they use like different methods of paint. I love a good post-it note covering up mistakes or being used in a stylistic way. I really like the quirky touches that some people use towards their sketchbooks, but what I wanted to focus on in this section is the sort of subgenre of sketchbook tour videos, and that is the accepted art school sketchbook subgenre in particular. Now, for those not in the know, some, though not all, art institutions require that you either submit a few pages of your sketchbook, if not the whole thing outright, as in mailing your sketchbook to that school and with return postage have that mailed back. And this is a process that I went through myself, and you can see that on this channel. It's the very first upload, though we can all see how that went for me. But I remember before making that video and before even starting on my own sketchbook way back when, around middle school, I would watch these videos and I would stay up late analyzing each page and trying to emulate in my own sketchbooks what I could do to increase the chance of me getting into my top dream school. And it seemed that every year artists were getting more and more skilled, and sketchbooks more and more highly rendered and elaborate and skilled. And so when it finally came time for me to do my own sketchbook, there was this mounting pressure of perfectionism and making sure that I did everything right so I could go to that school. So I worked in one, but I kept another sketchbook on the side, and that one I let myself be more free to explore. And sometimes I would doodle in those ones, and then I would try to recreate those doodles in my portfolio sketchbook, I suppose. And I did that because I kept two, because in that second one I could just explore and make these nonsense scribbles and feel like I wasn't being judged or graded in the same way that that portfolio sketchbook would be. And the reason why, you might be wondering, oh, why are art schools asking for something that you feel is like a personal journal? And the reason for that is that art schools ask for these pages or sketchbooks to theoretically get a feel for how you think and work out in 3D space. But because you're sort of graded or judged based on how you think, it kind of feels like when you're rejected that, oh, the way that I'm interpreting 3D space into a 2D medium is wrong. And I think relating that back to the sketchbook tour videos, I don't think that they're bad at all. Again, I still from time to time watch them in my free time, and I still get inspired. I can see younger artists get inspired by it, and it helps the younger artists see expectation. But I think we're also seeing in real time how that expectation is getting harder to meet skill-wise. But I think we'll go back into this perfectionism and how it relates to social media. So let's get into the next subject. Has social media ruined sketchbooks? Okay, just saying this now. I think that social media is just going to be a running theme in most of the videos that I make going forward, but that's just the consequence of living in the internet age, baby. Right. So, the main reason I wanted to make this video is the sort of increasing awareness of the expectations and competition in the art sphere, even down to just our scribbles. There's this idea that, and I'll read this tweet, that social media ruins sketchbooks by incentivizing beautiful, fully realized drawings rather than sketchbooks as an outlet for failure, trial and error, and experimentation. Woof. Now, this is a criticism that many people relate to, and even I agree with to some degree. And I think with the over-perfection or the perfectionization on social media in general, it was only natural that this sense of perfection would reach the art sphere. And I agree that it can be very damaging, and this is a sentiment that I've seen pop up more and more over the recent years, and it's inspired this video topic, and there are many more tweets like this that kind of echo the same thing. But I do want to say, if you think about it for just 1 second, sort of think about the kind of art that you respond to, or think about what kind of art a general audience of people would respond to, and how does that engagement factor into these decisions that artists make when it comes to uploading the kind of art that they do. If people prefer the cleaner drawing, then of course the artist is more inclined to upload these cleaner and painterly drawings than the really messy ones that don't get as much engagement. And unfortunately, with social media and with internet, it's sort of more incentivized to do things that drive more engagement rather than maybe more personal preferences. What are you more likely to share? Messy works or clean stuff? The things that we post are not always a complete representation of where our skill levels are at, but they are often interpreted that way. And as mentioned before, this problem also exists outside of social media when we talk about art schools and sketchbook videos. Foundational classes have also used sketchbooks as part of final projects. So what I mean to say is that I don't think social media itself has ruined sketchbooks. I think that the issue is steeped in multiple layers of expectation and perfectionism that, while social media didn't necessarily create, it has definitely exacerbated the issue. So that is important to keep in mind. So social media did not ruin sketchbooks, has not ruined sketchbooks, probably won't ruin sketchbooks, but I do think that it has sort of changed the look of them. How do we really define a sketchbook? So there is a standard definition for a sketchbook, but I think what a sketchbook is, or what makes a sketchbook, kind of differs between everyone. Do we see sketchbooks as places solely for quick scribbling, or can sketchbooks also include fully rendered illustrations? There are many differing ideas on what that is, but in relation to the sort of polished sketchbook look, I've seen people say that maybe we should start calling these something else. Maybe we should call these really highly rendered sketchbooks art books, or sketch portfolios, or something similar. And on the one hand, I agree that there should be some kind of distinction between sketchbooks that are messier and loose, and ones where each page is a fully rendered and detailed illustration, but limiting someone's expression. Maybe someone sees these, what to us look like rendered illustrations, might really actually be sketches. For that, I don't think that there is any easy solution. I think probably there should be a distinction between messier stuff and cleaner things, but I don't know if limiting those terms is really helpful, especially when sketchbooks are just places for expressions. So having to worry about whether or not your drawings are too clean or too messy to fit into this standard idea of a sketchbook only adds to the anxiety. So I don't know. I'm positing this question, but I don't have an answer. But if you have an idea about how we should distinguish these two, or if we should even make the distinction in the first place, comment down below. I'd be interested to hear what you guys are thinking, and maybe I can make a follow-up thoughts and feelings about that to this video and to this topic in general. Right. So defining what a sketchbook is, all well and good, but that doesn't really lessen things like first or blank page anxiety. Just a couple things that have helped me with this, or have helped me with making my sketchbook a fun place to draw again. And so I think the most important thing is that you need to reject the idea that your sketchbook has to be fancy, or that it has to be flawless, that it has to be like every beautiful sketchbook that you see on Instagram or YouTube. Your sketchbook is for you. It is your space, and you also don't have to share everything online. I think that as artists, we really do feel compelled to share everything that we make to everyone because we like having that feedback, we like having that community. But it's important to remember that you don't have to share everything. If you don't like what's in your sketchbook, you don't have to show people that. That can just be between you and your book. And number 3 is that you don't even really need a sketchbook. I have a few. I have a pile of them at home, and I have a few with me. But I think I have the opposite of first page anxiety, because this sketchbook, there's a lot of drawings in it. But as you get towards the end of it, there's a lot of blank pages. There's a lot of blank pages here. I almost never finish a sketchbook because while I'm getting through it, I find that I prefer to have loose sheets of copy paper going back to lined paper. But also there's this thing that you can't have sketchbook anxiety if you don't have a sketchbook. Look at that. You guys are playing checkers. I'm playing chess. You can't have sketchbook anxiety without a sketchbook. I mean, you can, but you can, and maybe that's a deeper thing that's driving me away from like finishing my sketchbooks, but whatever. And I feel more comfortable sometimes just picking random scraps of copy paper. I don't feel the anxiety of like spending a lot of money on a sketchbook, or really expensive with really fine paper. You know, sometimes that pulls me away from the whole experience when I know that like what I'm doing is like costing me money, especially if I make more mistakes. Okay, so I think that's gonna be it on all my thoughts about when or how did sketchbooks get so much more polished than they used to be. And I think that regardless of the back and forth of sketchbooks, I still enjoy the ways that most artists work out their concepts of 3D space in these books, and I feel like we can all come to an agreement that it is very interesting to see some of your favorite artists' sketches outside of their fully rendered. Those are just my thoughts on it, but I wanted to discuss some of the more, maybe not problematic, but the different sides to this argument. So, with all that said, let me know your thoughts on this topic, on this video, down in the comments, and make sure to follow me on my Twitter or Instagram if you want to see my art, or if you just want to see my random ramblings, crazed ramblings online. But also to know when I'm releasing my next video. I've also got links in the description to my Ko-fi. I also have a print shop on INPRNT if you'd like to order some of my art prints. But aside from that, that'll do it for today, and I will try to get the next video out within about a week or two so that there isn't this big gap like there is between this video and my last one. But until we meet again, take care of yourselves. I will see you all in the next video.